Hey Arnold, you ready to come out, man? We're ready to start the show here in a minute. We got Arnold coming in to do an actual interview today, and I'm really excited about this, so let me see if he's ready. Arnold, you ready for us?
Fuck you, asshole.
Okay. What's up, guys? Welcome to Bad Medicine, Episode 3. I'm your host, John. Welcome back. Today we are going to have a really kick-ass show. We are going to be checking out 1987's RoboCop with Peter Weller. I'm super excited about this episode because it's one of my favorite all-time action movies, and it's a fucking classic. We're going to take a look at a few clips from this movie. I'm going to break it down and give you my theory about what's going on medically and the facts behind it. For those of you that have seen the movie, know how absolutely bloody this movie is, and I've wanted to break it down for a while now. That's actually one of the first movies I wanted to break down, but I didn't want to open up with it because I didn't know how it was going to go at first, but since we're 3 episodes balls deep, I figured why the hell not? Let's just get it done. So, the first scene we're going to check out is actually it's about 30 minutes into the movie. It's the scene where the executive gets blown away by Ed 209, and most of you know that's like one of the most graphic scenes in the movie. So we're going to check that out right now. Here we go.
Help us simulate a typical arrest and disarming procedure. Mr. Kinney, use your gun in a threatening manner. Pointed at Ed 209.
Yes, sir.
Dumbass.
Please put down your weapon. You have 20 seconds to comply.
I think you'd better do what he says, Mr. Kinney.
Probably a good idea.
You now have 15 seconds to comply. You are in direct violation of Penal Code 113.
I think Enron made this movie.
You now have
Because they
5
fucked this up.
seconds to comply. 4, 3, 2, 1. I am now authorized to use physical force.
So that's actually one of my favorite parts is this dude is absolutely getting ripped to shreds by like 2 cannons, and like all the fucking like chairman of the board can do is just put his face in his hands. It's like, what the fuck? Like, really? Like, you can't really give the dude any more like sympathy? It's like, oh my god, a fucking human being just got eviscerated in front of me. It's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about that. So, well, basically, the guy's dead. You know, I'm pretty sure that's obvious. I'm going to assume right off the bat that the caliber of the bullets that this Ed 209 was using was probably, we'll just say 50 caliber. When a 50 caliber round actually hits a body, something like flesh or something like that, it absolutely just eviscerates whatever it hits. Military guys are in the desert and they're taking out like snipers with like 50 cal rounds. it just absolutely like destroys anything it hits. I think a little bit of movie magic was used here as far as how like intact the dude was, because if this were like an actual situation happening where this dude was like getting hit with like, you know, hundreds of rounds of like high caliber rounds like that, this dude would like be on the fucking ceiling, on the floor, on like he'd be probably 2 cities away. Like that's how bad like he'd get. It was actually kind of interesting like how kind of close it got to the violence that it would actually portray. So, but I mean, there's really not much to say about that. I mean, it's just gonna destroy anything it goes through, like a 50 cal round like that. We'll call it that. I don't know in reality because there aren't bipedal fucking robots walking around shooting people. So we'll just go as far as that goes. So yeah, definitely, dude, dead. So the next scene we're gonna check out, we'll get a little more in depth with this one because this is a little more down to earth as far as like what would really happen to a person. So we're gonna check out the death scene of Murphy. There's actually a few cool points I want to hit on when I talk about this scene. We'll just talk about it as they go.
You probably don't think I'm a very nice guy, do you?
Buddy, I think you're slime.
See, I got this problem. Cops don't like me, so I don't like cops.
Dumbass! Alright, so we're going to pause it right there, talk about what just happened there. Murphy just got his hand blown off. Whoa, right? Okay, so when something like that happens, you're automatically going to have a situation where the person goes into shock. With a situation like this, you'll have a massive amount of blood loss. So what are you going to do? Tie it off so the blood doesn't come out all over the place, basically. And I mentioned this, I believe, in the first video. You're going to want to apply a tourniquet 3 inches above the site, tie it off, give that person oxygen, definitely go high flow with that, probably about 15 liters of full face mask, and then you're going to want to give them a heat blanket. When you're losing that amount of blood, you're going to want to get that person warm as soon as possible. Otherwise...
Well, give the man a hand. He's all yours.
So I guess we can throw the tourniquet out of the window if you're just going to take the rest of the arm off. Red Foreman is a real asshole. Just want to put that on a side note.
Okay, Funzo. Okay, let's get out of here.
Okay, so we'll talk about that one. Bleeding control definitely is one part of this scene we just saw. This guy pretty much got destroyed by a few 12 gauge rounds is what I would guess is what they are. They're just going to rip through flesh the whole time and just absolutely destroy any kind of tissue. He had body armor on, but I mean that's probably why he was surviving at the time. But as most of you know, body armor only lasts as long as it's intact. So I mean, if you're getting shot repeatedly in the same place, you know, for an extended amount of time, it's eventually going to wear away. He probably had some pretty extensive tissue damage. The main one that's really going to get him, though, was the shot to the head. Now, I do know that a Desert Eagle, which is what Red Foreman was carrying and he shot him with, it's a .50 caliber weapon. Desert Eagles do some pretty extensive damage to anything that it hits. This guy definitely is dead. I mean, especially taking a point-blank shot to the head with a Desert Eagle, yeah, he's absolutely gone. Interesting, because the next scene is actually him getting flown to the trauma unit at the hospital. We're going to check that out. Okay, so here's the scene I was telling you about. He's getting flown into the trauma unit right here. They got a trauma team on standby. That's usually general common practice in hospitals. So right now they're getting him to the emergency room. They're going to work on him here. And I'll kind of explain what's going on here as it goes on. So right now they're giving him intravenous fluids. They're right there, what they have on his face, it's called a non-rebreather mask. So that means right now that he's not breathing. So they're actually trying to get him to start breathing again. So they haven't gotten him to start breathing on his own. So right now what they're doing with this is they're actually giving him what's called an endotracheal tube. So what they're going to do is they're actually running that down his throat, and they're running artificial oxygen in there. She's checking pupillary response to see if there's any neurological activity, which I doubt there's zip.
His pressure's dropping.
Oh yeah, I forgot there's this TV show segment, but whatever.
Can you do that, Dad?
Yeah, so
I really have to tell you
What's our blood pressure?
I've got 40 pel.
All right.
yeah. 40 pel, that means his blood pressure is actually decreasing, which means he's almost dead.
VFib, okay, they got a shock him.
VFib, yep. So now what they're doing is they're getting the AED ready. That's 1987's version of an AED. They actually had to put pads on them. This is really low-tech stuff, but it's supposed to be the future. Okay, epinephrine. They're trying to get his heart restarted.
All right, it's in.
No pulse.
All right,
No
let's go ahead
pulse.
and shock a flat line, and then let's quit.
Okay, so they're gonna try and shock him one more time, but he's gone.
All right, I think that's all we can do. Let's call it. What's the time?
So they called the time of death right there. So that's generally common practice. Everything you saw was pretty accurate. Generally, they will do the non-rebreather mask, which is the mask that you saw that was like this, and they were pumping on the side like that. That's generally done to stimulate the body to breathe on its own. The whole object is they have to get oxygen to the brain, because you have about 5 minutes before the brain is absolutely done and you start to have brain damage with that. 2 to 5 minutes. Actually pretty accurate. We're going to move on to the next scene here. This scene is actually one of my favorite scenes. This is the part where RoboCop raids this cocaine factory and just absolutely fucks up all these dudes. It's really awesome. Here we go.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Ah, fuck you!
probably noticed a lot of gunshot wounds. A lot of gunshot wounds. Might not have seen very closely, but I noticed that a lot of the gunshot wounds that these guys were getting were on the shoulder. So with that can actually be pretty dangerous as well. With wounds to like the shoulder area, you've got a lot of vascularity that's going on up there. You have the femoral artery that's running from the heart all the way down to the arms, all the way through the legs. That's where a majority of the blood flow goes. But counting that out, there's actually a lot more that can happen too with a shoulder injury like that. You can actually get trauma to the lung tissue right here. I mean, there can be massive amount of trauma to those tissues. So, I mean, you can actually have a collapsed lung from that. You can have massive amounts of bleeding. Stomach wounds. There was the one guy who I'm assuming was the dude who was running this cocaine operation. Like, I know what the fuck I'm talking about with cocaine, right? He got shot in the stomach with, high-powered AK-47. So 7.75 caliber, I'm going to say. That can be pretty tough because with that, you can actually have spinal injury with that. You can have massive amount of bleeding. You can actually survive a stomach injury with being shot in the stomach. If it's not taken care of right away, you can have sepsis. You can have blood poisoning. I mean, you can have a lot of issues with that. In this situation, probably not going to survive being shot 30 times in the stomach with an AK-47. So generally just keep that in mind. Gunshot wounds, they have to be taken care of immediately. Bleeding control is definitely a number one priority. Got one more clip I want to check out.
Dick, you're fired!
Thank you.
I do know what kind of weapon RoboCop is carrying. It's called an Auto 9. It's actually a modified Beretta 9mm. Single burst rounds, and then it's like fully automatic too. So thanks to my buddy Nolan Myhale, who I hope is watching this. He told me about that. Several gunshot wounds. Once again, those shoulder hits. Not one of them was center mass, so it was kind of funny because I noticed he got hit in both shoulders, and then two right here. But I guess that's just movie magic, whatever. Anyway, he fell out of a high-story building, so yeah, he's fucking dead. Once again, bleeding control, immediate oxygen with that. That about wraps it up for episode 3. I want to thank my new crew that I have working with me now, David Rose and Lonnie Williams. They are going to be taking care of the technical aspects of my show from now on, so I can strictly focus on being the douchebag center of attention for the show. Thank you guys for tuning in for episode 3, and thank you very much. Good night.